Hi everyone, I'm Umer Farooq. I'm a second year international politics student studying at City University of London. And I'm also currently participating in a micro placement at Post Social as a trainee sports journalist. My role as a trainee sports journalist is to involve researching and writing blogs on different sporting events, conducting podcasts with those involved in the sector, and creating engaging content for Post Social's platform, including news bulletins. In my first day, I was tasked with writing a blog about the importance of community in sports and to prepare pre-questions for upcoming podcast. In the second day, I had to design a poster using Canva, which has been a game changer for me, as I realized creating visually appealing content is just as important as writing compelling stories. Canva's user-friendly interface and vast array of templates have made it easy for me to design eye-catching graphics, posters, and YouTube videos. However, learning to use Canva, for instance, was initially overwhelming due to its vast features and options. However, by dedicating time to explore and practice, I overcame this hurdle and now effectively utilize it. I also wrote a script for upcoming news bulletin. With the combination of writing a script for the news bulletin and writing a blog, it helped me develop my writing and researching skills. In the third and final day of the week, I effectively utilized Canva to create a video for the news bulletin. However, a challenge I have faced so far is getting a guest to come on the podcast, as I've asked around a lot and I've received a lot of no's and no replies back at times, which can make it hard at times. But other than that, I believe I've had a very successful and productive week as a trainee sports journalist at Post Social. Thank you everyone for listening. Hi everyone, I'm Umer Farooq. I'm a second year international politics student studying at City University of London, and I'm also currently participating in a micro placement program at Post Social as a trainee sports journalist, and this was my second week of the micro placement program. This week was generally quite busy for me as I had two podcasts to conduct, one being with Onyenya Nakemdarim, the London regional manager of Sportage UK, and Rawan Itani, who is a fellow trainee sports journalist. I had a nice long chat with both of them and I got an insight in what they do and how they do it. After that, I then edited both the podcasts on Canva alongside the news bulletin I had written for this week. I find it quite enjoyable using Canva to edit through the videos, as I got to tap into my creative side whilst working on them, and I've become much more used to Canva, which helped me as I wasn't as confident using it last week. And lastly, I wrote 3 blogs, one about community sports and how it can be inclusive, and the other 2 outlining the podcasts I had just recorded. Once again, I found getting people to come onto the podcast challenging. Hopefully my luck changes next week, but all in all, I think the second week went well. I felt way more comfortable using tools such as Canva and writing blogs. But yeah, see you next week. Hi everyone, I'm Umer Farooq. I'm a second year international politics student studying at City University of London, and I'm also currently participating in a micro placement program at Post Social as a trainee sports journalist, and this was my third week of the micro placement program. This week was less stressful for me than last week as I didn't have to do the extra podcast. But the podcast I did do, I think it went successful. I've done it with Mo Ali, who is a university student that partakes in boxing around the community. I think we had a nice chat talking about the sport of boxing and his goals in boxing. And after that podcast was done, I wrote a blog detailing the podcast and what was included in it. I also wrote another blog this week about women in sports, which I thoroughly enjoyed writing about, as I already had previous knowledge on this topic, which made it a lot more enjoyable to write about. And it was about women's sports and its evolution and how they're consistently breaking negative stereotypes set to them. I also edited and created the news bulletin this week, which I believe was definitely my best news bulletin so far, as at this point I'm used to Canva now and I could experiment a little bit, which I think went well, and also talked about some of the interesting stories as well. As that, I edited the podcast I just recorded as well on Canva, and I just said as I'm more used to Canva, it allowed me to edit the podcast in the best possible way I could. Overall, I think it was a very successful third week of my micro placement, and I believe I've settled down well. Hopefully the next week is as good as this week, and thanks all. I'll see you next week. Hi everyone, I'm Umer Farooq, and I'm a second year international politics student studying at City University of London, and I'm also currently participating in a micro placement program at Post Social as a trainee sports journalist, and this was my 4th week of the micro placement program, I think. And this week was less busy for me as I only had a blog and a news bulletin to do this week, With the news bulletin, I found a story of a diver participating in the Olympics whilst not actually being able to swim. So I used that story for the news bulletin. I also edited it on Canva, which I'm fully immersed with by now and can use it really easily and comfortably now. And in the blog I had written, it was about women in sports and how they're currently redefining the sports as we know it. I personally enjoyed writing that blog as I already had previous knowledge on it, so it was easier for me to write. But unfortunately this week I didn't get anyone for the podcast, which is why it was a little less busier this week. But I have got someone for next week, so hopefully that goes well. But all in all, I think the fourth week went well and I'm excited for next week. So thanks for listening. I'll be back next week. Hi everyone, I'm Umer Farooq and I'm a second year international politics student studying at City University of London. And I'm also currently participating in a micro placement program at Post Social as a trainee sports journalist. And this was my 5th week of the micro placement program. This week was a normal week for me as I had a podcast at first with Ashton Shepherd, the City University Student Union President. I had a nice informed chat with him and straight after that I edited the podcast on Canva and wrote a blog detailing the podcast episode which I got done. Also this week I focused on getting someone for the podcast next week so I could stay on top of everything, and thankfully that ended up happening as Katie Sawyer from the charitable organisation Sense Active got back to me and agreed for a podcast for the following week, which made my life way easier. I also wrote a blog on the evolution and origin of the Paralympics as my topic for the week was disability in sports. It was quite enjoyable writing that blog as I've been watching the Paralympics for a long time and getting to write about it was real nice. I then ended the week off with a news bulletin which I focused around a story of a refugee that is able to compete in the Olympics this year after a few tough years for him. I also used Canva to edit the news bulletin. I'm very acclimated with using Canva now and use it with ease as opposed to my first week. But I think the 5th week went well altogether and hopefully the next week goes as smoothly as this week did. Thanks all. Hi everyone, I'm Umer Farooq. I'm a City University student currently studying international politics. Just finished my 2nd year, going on to my 3rd year, and I'm also currently participating in a micro placement program at Post Social as a sports journalist, and this was my 6th week as in the micro placement. This week it was a normal week. I had 1 podcast to do, 2 blogs to write about, and 1 news bulletin to do. As you already know by now from my previous video diaries, I'm quite used to Canva now, so using Canva is no problem for me now. In fact, I'd like to get a bit more creative with it now than I was before. Before I was just getting used to the basics, but now I try to maximize using Canva. So for my news bulletin, I tried a few new things from Canva. The podcast I did was with Katie Sawyer, who's active lifestyle lead at charity at Sense Charity, and they've got a division inside that called Sense Active. I done a podcast with her. Wrote a blog on the podcast with her. I also wrote a blog about disability in sports and redefining strength in sports for people with disabilities. And yeah, done the news bulletin as I said, but yeah, that was my 6th week done. I've got 2 more weeks left of the micro placement. But yeah, it's going good so far, and hopefully next week's was as good as the 6th week was. Thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Umer Farooq. I'm a City University student currently studying international politics. I just finished my 2nd year. I'm going on to my 3rd year. I'm also currently participating in the micro placement program at the company Post Social, and where I am a trainee sports journalist, and this was my 7th week in the micro placement. At first, I started the week off by doing a podcast with Anis Ikramullah, who is the managing director of CSM Foundation and CSM London FC. It was a nice long chat we had. We talked about the origins of CSM London FC and CSM Foundation, what they do currently, how they plan to move forward. So it was a good chat with Anis Ikramullah. So stay tuned for that to come out soon. After that, I wrote a blog about the podcast that we had just done. Just outlined what we talked about majority of times, any future plans for CSM, and yeah, I also done a news bulletin. So I've been doing that weekly. I'm very comfortable with doing it now, especially using tools like Canva. I'm way more than acclimated now. After the news bulletin, I wrote a blog. This week, my topic was about basketball. So I decided to write about basketball's impact and its origin all around the world and play styles from different countries and different continents, from North America, Europe, Latin America, and even Africa. So I really enjoyed writing that blog because I've already got previous knowledge on basketball, so it was easy for me to write. And yeah, that was my 7th week in the micro placement. Next week's my final week, and hopefully it goes as well as my entire micro placement has been going so far. So thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Umer Farooq and I'm an international politics student currently studying at City University, and I'm also currently taking part in the micro placement program as a trainee sports journalist at Post Social, and I finally finished it after 8 weeks, and this is my final student placement diary. At first, my favourite task out of the whole placement would be writing blogs about basketball. As I'm already a fan of basketball, writing blogs about things such as the cultural impact it has had all over the world came so easy to me. As I already had existing knowledge and was a fan from before, it made me really enjoy writing about it. My biggest learning experience was probably getting used to Canva. As coming into this placement, I had no idea how to use tools such as Canva, and I struggled at first and saw some of the things I created with Canva as quite uninspiring. But as time went on and I got more used to it and practiced more on it, I became better and I'd end up enjoy using it. After being in the placement, it has definitely given me a clear pattern on what I want to do in the future for myself after my studies. As before, I was a bit unsure, but being a trainee sports journalist has really resonated with me, and it's something I'm hopeful I get to do in the future. And yeah, thank you for listening.